When we walked into the office, I saw you on the live TV talking about illegal immigrants voting in DC. And I thought to myself, how did something like that become partisan?
Right.
How is it that there are issues that are so obvious? A big corporation, a multinational corporation with billionaire foreign investors. At the time, Elon Musk now has taken over, and we can make an argument about that. But at the time, you had foreign investors and foreign interests involved in a multinational corporation that was suppressing the speech of not just conservatives, though mostly conservatives, but even some anti-war leftists got caught up in this. Yet they are completely like, no, who cares? Everybody, nothing to see here. And I'm just confused as to how that's a left or right issue. I mean, I get it. It benefits their party, right?
Right. And the narrative that they've been pushing as well. I mean, look, they are for wide open borders. That's why they have done nothing to secure our southern border. That's why we're seeing nearly 5 million people come into our country illegally that we know of. That doesn't even count the unknown gotaways that we have no idea who they are, what they're bringing into our country. And so this is a part of their party platform at this point. And so, of course, they want them to vote. They're inviting them in. They're allowing them to come in. And they're promising them a free healthcare, free college, free education, free lawyers, free cell phones, anything else you want. And they're really treating our country like an Oprah Winfrey show. And now they're saying you get a vote, too. And this should not be a partisan issue. This should be something that we all unite and say, no, only American citizens can vote in United States elections.
You know what I find? I definitely want to go back to the immigration thing too. But in terms of like the Twitter stuff, we've invited often many people on this show who are more left leaning, and only a very, very small number of them actually come on. But there's one thing that's consistent every time they do. They don't know what they're talking about. And I mean that with all due respect. I think the most well-read individual we've had on the show is Vosh. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's a YouTuber. He's a socialist guy. And there was a lot he didn't know, but there was a lot he did know. And I can respect that. I just think he's wrong on his opinions, socialism, etc. But we had people on who I asked them about Ukraine. I asked them about issues at the border, and they literally don't know what's going on. You ask them, remember when Donald Trump said coyotes are coming across the border? Or
yes, I do remember that.
The media made fun of him because they thought he was talking about animals carrying babies.
Right. Yes, no.
How do you debate someone in Congress? How do you pass a bill when you say, hey, coyotes are bad, and they go, animals?
Right, because most of this is a facade. You have 25-year-old staffers give you your talking points. You go down, you read them at the mic, and then you leave when you're done, and you vote the way your party tells you how you're wrecked. A lot of members don't talk about the legislation that they're voting on before they vote on it. They go down there and say, is this a yes or a no? How's the party voting? And really, it's just a numbers game. You have the majority, you get it passed. And now I do think that the way that we have changed the way Congress operates, that did kind of help that a little bit. And members have to pay attention to what they're doing. And even the party has to pay attention to what we are wanting, because they've seen that any 5 members at any time can take down a bill, can take down a rule. And so they have to pay attention more and have more communication and dialogue.
Are you a Ron Paul fan?
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. I feel like, when I was younger and I started learning more about Congress and politics, Ron Paul was getting very, very popular, end of the 2000s. And it's because he's a very libertarian guy. He talks about personal responsibility and things like that. And that said a lot to me. The point I made at the time was, look, I may not agree with him on some of his more conservative viewpoints and religious viewpoints, but then he comes and says, yeah, but I'll leave you alone.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay. I can support that,
just
right?
get government off my back. And obviously Rand Paul's doing a great job. And then Thomas Massie, he came to Congress and he picked up a lot of Ron Paul's bills when he came here. So he's someone who said, this guy's doing it right. I want to introduce the legislation he was introducing. And Thomas Massie, he's more libertarian leaning than most members here. And so he's a wonderful ally to have. He and I co-chair the Second Amendment caucus together. But he wants to limit the federal government, limit spending, and make sure Americans are still free.
So let's go back. We'll go back to the Twitter stuff, because I don't want to go. The reason I brought up Ron Paul was because at the beginning of this big social media push, we saw that Ron Paul love revolution thing. And I kind of feel like many members of Congress today that we like, Freedom Caucus types, or the people who stood up against the establishment, who, refused to vote for Kevin McCarthy. We had a good laugh about that. It seems like a lot of this may have been inspired by that time, by that, Ron Paul revolution. So it got me thinking about that with social media today and the manipulation of big tech and the censorship of ideas. When we have people on the show and they don't know what's going on and what we're talking about,
right.
Like this is the problem. AOC goes up before these executives and outright says this was what did you call it, a 24-hour mistake or something on Twitter? That doesn't matter and we're wasting public resources. She said that libs of TikTok spread lies about the Boston Children's Hospital providing hysterectomies. However, on their own website, there was a video, or I should say this, there is a video of a woman from the Boston Children's Hospital explaining what a hysterectomy is. And they say on their website that, or it's been reportedly, as people have been sharing, they provided hysterectomies to adolescents. Now, AOC doesn't know that, or she's lying. I guess I'll ask you, do you think she's lying or do you think she just doesn't know?
I think she's saying what she was told to say. I mean, it's as simple as that. So
it's a little bit of both.
Whether it's an outright lie or doesn't want to believe the truth, doesn't want to hear something else. This is what she has heard, and that is what she is regurgitating.
Man.
I'm coming into bat again. Can you hear me, Chad?
Nope.
Still can't hear
You're
you.
not coming through.
Well, this might be
You're just. Yep. Or you can pull a chair up and we can swing the mic over.
We might, because we're going to have 2 people at a time. That's the plan. So maybe.
So there's no audio coming through when you talk. But I guess we'll just keep going unless you want to pull up a chair. So what I can hear Ian talking, but I can see on the monitor they are not going into YouTube. The soundboard is not delivering their microphones to the computer. So one option is to use. I know exactly what the problem is, but there's no way to fix it in real time. It's an issue. It's an issue we've dealt with new computers before, where you have to change a stereo mono setting or something like this because there's 2 channels, but the board is only delivering one of its channels to the computer, which is why we're not getting audio from the other microphones. So it is what it is. I don't think we'll be able to fix it. So we'll just we'll hang out. We'll do what we can. Ian, we can have you come and sit over here. We'll throw you the microphone when you can. But yeah. So back to the Twitter stuff, because I don't want to keep wasting time talking about the fact that our audio is not working. It is what it is. It feels, one thing that we've talked about in the show is cultural decay. The dark direction this country is headed if we can't solve this. But the way I've described it is, if you have a person who has become hypoxic, right? Low oxygen in the brain, they can't think straight. They will not be able to right themselves to save themselves. So that's why when you're on an airplane, they say, put on your own oxygen mask before the person next to you. If half of our country is effectively hypoxic due to bad information, lies and fake news from the media, so they're not thinking clearly, but they're still voting. Right. How is this country supposed to right itself when one lobe has been, starved of oxygen?
Yes, that's why it is so important for us to have these hearings and investigations. Look, we don't have we don't have the Senate, we don't have the White House, but we do have the House. We have oversight capabilities, so we can begin to expose this truth, expose the mainstream media, expose big tech and what they have been doing and how they have been lying to the American people, what they've been covering up, the lull that has been created by the narrative that they push, by the rhetoric that they allow, and then by the information that they suppress. So that's why we are doing this in oversight, so we can get that truth out to the American people, because so many people do just listen to what they're told on TV, on Twitter, on social media, and move on with their day. So it's so important for people to know the truth was hidden from you on purpose.
It's such a challenge every day to try and convince someone they're being lied to when they don't want to believe they're being lied to.
No one wants to believe they're being lied to.
Yeah.
You want to think that you have control of your life, that people are trustworthy, that you can engage in these conversations and watch the news and it be accurate and factual and go on with your day. But I mean, the truth is, if you watch the news, you're misinformed, and if you don't, you're uninformed.
Yep. Think about it ideologically. When I mentioned, we were talking about the non-citizens and illegal immigrants voting. It's not just in D.C. I mean, New York has been, various parts of New York have been talking about it, various parts of California. That to me shows there is it feels like the ship we're on has hit the iceberg. The Titanic has hit the iceberg and it's sinking. You cannot have a country if there's no borders. Quite literally. Right. So we've actually talked about the definition of a country versus a nation. And I think a country requires sovereign borders that determine its jurisdiction or something to that effect. And a nation is a reference to culture and people. I can't. But look, we've got people pouring across the border to the point where we can't track them. There's drug smuggling. There was just in Arizona on the southern border, a man shot an illegal immigrant. They charged him with first-degree murder. So we have people entering this country. We have children dying in the desert and in rivers because it's an extremely dangerous trip that's being encouraged effectively by the Biden administration and by various NGOs. And then you have various parts of the country saying, let them vote. And they're expanding that. To me, it's like, hey, what's going on, man? We got Byron Donalds.
Byron Donalds. We're missing a couple mics here, so I'm going to switch you spots here in a second.
Yeah, we'll have you jump over in a second. But just to wrap this thought up before we jump around.
Yep.
That is the most immediate leak. That people are entering this country illegally, that Democrats are calling for amnesty and for the right to vote. The end result of that is clear. There won't be a country.
Correct. And that's what they want. They want to dismantle the system. They want to create chaos. They want the system to fail because they hate the system. They hate everything that our country was founded on, and they want to start over. So, I mean, this is no surprise that they're wanting everything to be different. It's going to take 8 to 10 years just to process the people who came into our country illegally last year. What about the ones who are coming into our country this year? So all of this is to create chaos, to dismantle the system. And, you know, I could call their policies a failure, but truly they're a success because this is their intent.
Yeah, I think what's happening is the chaos that they're trying to sow is essentially the end of the liberal economic order after World War II. The British and the French and the Americans were like, 1949, we're going to build this empire to prevent World War III. So they did it. Now, 70 years later, that order is fading, and the new order, the new world order, they call it, is forming. And so in order to form this order, they need to create chaos to create the order out of. But I think there's a lot of useful idiots that are being swept up and like, yeah, toxic compassion, we need to help everybody.
Right.
Like I don't think Cortez, I don't get the vibe that she's like orchestrating the downfall of America. I just think that she really cares about people, and like that can take you to dark places if you.
I'm not convinced that many of these Democrats actually care about people. And I know it's so cliche and tribalistic to say, to be sitting here with a Republican and we're like, oh, Democrats are bad. But man, it's just so weird to see someone like AOC. Let's just be. I hate being. I hate giving the benefit of the doubt when she says the Boston Children's Hospital, libs of TikTok. Yoel Roth says, unfortunately, libs of TikTok is still there, and it's just like we have so much evidence. Let's back away from that. The Hunter Biden laptop. Emails between Joe and Hunter. Or I'm sorry, not between Joe and Hunter, but emails between Hunter Biden and his associates. Emails to Hunter Biden talking about setting up a meeting with his dad. Tony Bobulinski, 10% for the big guy. Private equity deals with China, flying on Air Force Two. The Burisma deals. I mean, like, I can cite so many different stories, factually proven that Joe Biden was doing these things. And then when you talk to Democrats, they just either don't know, don't care, don't believe you.
Yes.
So to wrap it all together, I'm a bit pessimistic in, can we inform people and get the right vote when we have two things going on? One, these people, you look at what Adam Schiff did with the whole Russiagate stuff, with releasing private phone records. I mean, some real dark and evil stuff. Lies, manipulations, impeachments. When Donald Trump, I believe, stumbled upon the Ukraine Gate scandal with Joe Biden and the $1 billion and firing the prosecutor, they immediately blamed him for what Joe Biden did and then impeached him.
And impeached him for it, for Joe Biden's crime. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
When you have that, and then you have universal mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting. Yeah. I gotta say, I hate
Colorado.
I'm not so optimistic. I suppose Republicans could launch a massive ballot harvesting campaign. And if that's the case, then I'm not sure standing up and educating people matters as much as just knocking on their door and saying, fill it out.
Right. Yes. So, in Colorado, we're trying to get those ballot harvesting campaigns in place. We have to play by their game. It's legal in Colorado, and we're not doing it because we're not for it. But they're doing that, and they're winning the elections. Colorado is turning bluer and bluer. We just lost our gubernatorial race by 20 points. I mean, this is absurd. My district's always been very conservative, and I won by 546 votes. So we have to start playing by their games. But I agree with you. I'm very much more pessimistic, and I don't think that they care about people. I think they care about power and winning and having control. And one of the things that they love the most is controlling people. That's very obvious.
I can't relate to it, man. You know, I can't relate to they just want to win for the sake of winning. I don't know what they see in the future. You know, I think about traditional family values as somebody who's, again, from a very liberal area where there's no Republicans at all. Chicago has been run by Democrats for 100 years or whatever. And I think about, you know, why do we want traditional family values? Well, we want humans to succeed. We want humans to thrive. We want humans to be happier. We want them to be better off. We want to find ways to make life better for everybody. But it seems like the policy positions that they put forward do the opposite. I talk often about why it is that in big cities, typically they're run by Democrats. Typically crime is through the roof.
Right.
And then we literally watch throughout the past several years crime getting worse in these cities as they release more criminals. Now there was this viral video out of New York where it wasn't a viral video. It was a viral story where a meteorologist was mercilessly beaten by teenagers. And the city said, we will not criminally charge these teenagers. And I'm just like, are they trying to destroy, or do they just not care and they're extracting as much as they can as the whole thing crumbles?
I think it's all of it.
Yeah.
I do. They want to be in power. They want to run things their way, and they know they have to completely blow it up to be able to reconstruct whatever it is that they're seeing their utopia as. But their utopia isn't going to work.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.